Just a few more hours of waiting, and after that, America will have its new leader for the next 4 years. Voting is underway for the U.S. presidential election, and now the anticipation of the results has only grown. The two candidates in this election, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, are in a fierce competition. It will be very interesting to see whom the American people decide to grant their mandate. There is another interesting point to note. Why is voting in the U.S. always held on the first Tuesday of November? In fact, the U.S. holds voting for the presidential election on just one day, and it has been a tradition to conduct elections on the first Tuesday of November every 4 years. But few people know when and how this tradition started. Let's explain why the whole of America votes on the first Tuesday of November. The rule in the U.S. is that the presidential election will take place on the first Tuesday of November, as written in the U.S. Constitution. This tradition is almost 180 years old. At that time, states had 34 days to conduct the elections, and they had to finish voting by the first Wednesday of December. But this led to many problems. The electoral process in the U.S. is not as centralized as in India. The Federal Election Commission oversees campaign finance laws, while state and local authorities manage the election process. Each state sets its own rules, from voter eligibility to ballot design and vote counting procedures, which is why the voting and counting process can vary widely across the country. However, the date for the presidential election remains the same nationwide, the first Tuesday of November. Until the mid-19th century, each state in America used to hold voting on different days, as long as the voting was completed before the Electoral College met in December. In 1844, the presidential elections spanned from early November to December. Some people felt that this system wasn't very effective. As a result, in 1845, the U.S. Congress passed an act. This law set a fixed date for the election of the president and vice president. The act stated that this date should be the Tuesday following the first Monday of November. But why was Tuesday chosen, and why the first Tuesday of November? There is a story behind this as well. At that time, America was a new country less than 100 years old. The majority of the population were farmers. November was chosen because it did not fall during the busy spring planting season or the autumn harvest season. Also, it was before the cold winter set in. Most farmers lived in distant rural areas, far from the polling stations in the cities. This meant they had to travel a long distance to cast their vote, which would take them an entire day. A lot of thought went into choosing the election day. Sunday could not be chosen because Christians went to church on that day. Wednesdays were market days and farmers were busy selling crops and goods. People also couldn't travel on Sundays or Wednesdays. Hence, the idea of holding the election on Monday or Thursday was also discarded. Tuesday, in every regard, turned out to be the ideal day, which is why the tradition of holding elections on the first Tuesday of November was established.